Guys, what's going on? Zach Evanish here. I've got some questions on the computer. Came in from one of the kids that we train, Harrison Kelly, over at our Scotch Plains location. So we're going to do some Q&A, and it's on the strength and conditioning career. And I've had a lot of our athletes have aspirations to do this, and they have, I guess, projects to interview somebody in a career path they'd like to get involved with, which I think is very cool. It allows me to really give a unique perspective, especially because I've been at the Division I level, the independent level, the public school level, consulting, and I've been around essentially multiple generations of the strength and conditioning industry. So I really got into strength and conditioning in 2002. But my first coaching job was in 1995 at a hospital fitness center where I started training adults. And then in the summertime, these parents would bring in their teenage boys for me to train during the summer. So in 1995, age 19, I had my first coaching job. So let's get into these questions. If you're thinking about being a strength coach, or maybe you are a strength coach, this is going to really give you some unique perspectives on where I'm coming from, my experiences, as well as advices, as Arnold Schwarzenegger said in Pumping Iron. So question number one, what are the day-to-day responsibilities of a strength and conditioning coach? Well, it depends. It depends where you work. So if you're in the private sector, and depending on how you run your gym, of course, you're going to be training adults or athletes, people of different ages, whoever your membership base is. If you are an independent strength coach, you're also going to be heavily involved in the business aspect, the marketing aspect, managing the money aspect. So you're going to have to learn marketing. You're going to have to understand managing other people, managing finances, planning, and also working in the current economic atmosphere, right? So depending on where your gym is located and where you live and what's going on in the economy, that changes things. For example, I have currently 2 locations. At one point, I had 3 locations plus what we would call a satellite location inside of a baseball facility. And even though we had the same training system in all of these locations, the way the business operated was slightly different. For example, Scotch Plains is a much more affluent area than Manasquan. And so we have large families, brothers and sisters, 2 brothers, 3 family members, 4 or 5 family members training as members in Scotch Plains. Whereas in Manasquan, we might have somebody who says, well, I could do the strength and conditioning now, but once my travel team starts up, that's all we could afford. So the business operation changes according to, the economic status of the area. So that's something you have to learn a lot about. So if we look at my desk and we look at all of these books here, you can see all of these binders and more are filled with business courses, business and marketing books, because if your main goal is training people and changing lives, then you have to learn business, because learning business allows you to impact more people. And that's the end goal. We want to train a lot of people to change more lives. Now, if you are in the college sector, you have a more stable membership, so to speak. The only time a kid is going to leave is if he quits the team, he or she quits, he or she is removed from the team, or he or she transfers out. So for the most part, you can map out and plan what's called a yearly training plan. You can map out what you're going to do with the athletes during the preseason, what you're going to do with them in season, what does training look like after the season, what does training look like in the deeper off season, which is sometimes called a discretionary, aka voluntary training time for the athletes. And so you can map out training much more of a stable and more structured program. At the independent level, we have adults in a group with middle school athletes, high school athletes, various sports, kids that are going into a heavy competition period. For example, Harrison, you're a wrestler. So we're doing a tapering phase for wrestlers when it's the postseason, districts, regions, states time. But we might have middle school kids who are other sports. That group might also have high school athletes who are not wrestlers, adults who want nothing to do with that. So you're managing multiple programs, really aggressively multiple personalities, because you got people of so many different age groups. So the private sector is tougher, being an independent coach, because there's a lot of things involved. When you're a collegiate strength coach, you're showing up, you're planning, and you're coaching. You're very much tunnel vision. Working at the public school level as a full-time strength coach has been very interesting. It's a fairly new position in New Jersey. Some of the private schools have had full-time strength coaches down south and in Texas, so the Carolinas, Florida, and Texas, and Georgia. They have been at the forefront of having highly qualified strength coaches in the high school level. This is something fairly new at the high school level in New Jersey. That being said, I am one coach in a room of usually 35 to 65 athletes at a time. And I don't think that anybody who's just got a little bit of experience can command a room that big and understands how to work with so many different athletes with still a lot of different personality traits, a lot of different fitness levels. So working at the public school with the large numbers, with not the best equipment, and creating something from ground zero, it has been awesome, but it is the most challenging strength and conditioning job I've had, infinitely harder than working at the Division I level. At the Division I level, I've been at Lehigh and Rutgers. We have elite athletes. So they have a different mentality. They have a different physicality, a different level of physical readiness. We're able to really, I had a buddy once say to me, he said, Zach, and he was in the NFL, he said, the hardest thing I did when I was with this NFL team was turn on the lights. Meaning, these guys are savages. You turn on the lights, you tell them what to do, bang, it gets done. Coaching the less than stellar athlete and building him or her up to a good and even a great athlete is where the greatest coaches lie. And so I've been around some of these top universities, and not all of those coaches are very good at their job. They might be very good at working technology, PowerPoint presentations, Excel spreadsheets, but they've got great athletes who are going to succeed oftentimes in spite of having a good or not so good strength coach. What do you think are the most important qualities somebody needs to possess to excel in a role as a strength and conditioning coach? Number one, you have to be all about the kids. If you don't truly love these kids and care about them with all your heart, then you're eventually going to be a clock puncher. You will not give them your best when you're tired or when you've had a bad day at home or something negative or challenging happened in your life. You'll bring it into the weight room, which to me is unacceptable. It's unacceptable regardless of being private, public school, university level, professional level. When you are serving these athletes, it's all about them, period. So number one, having a genuine care from the heart. Number two, they need to consistently and relentlessly pursue excellence. They have to be constantly trying to better themselves. As you see, like I've got books all over the place, whether it's training books. I've got books that date back to the late 1800s to current day. So I'm blending over a century worth of training information, training knowledge, and I'm learning from coaches and lifters and athletes from, the early 1900s to current day. So great strength coaches are also going to be great researchers. For example, when a strength coach reaches out to me and says, how do I do this? Or what about that? Well, I send them to my website. I say, go to zachevnish.com and type what you're looking for in the search bar. Are you looking for how to build muscle? Type it in. Plyometrics? Type it in. So if they want things handed to them and they're not willing to do the research, they're not going to value the information as much. So that's another thing, is they have to be great at research and they must value knowledge, information, and the effort it takes to get it. I often say you're always investing in yourself. You might not be investing financially, but you're investing with time, effort, energy, dedication, commitment, intensity, and so on and so forth. And so great coaches need all of those aspects and all of those character traits, and good coaches will only have some of them. And sometimes, or maybe more than sometimes, there's a lot of politics involved, especially at the university level. And so it's not always the best coaches that get hired. Sometimes it's the best friends that get hired. What do you like best about working as a strength coach? To me, the most rewarding thing is seeing how it changes lives, how the training impacts the lives of an athlete beyond athletics. It has an impact into their entire life, into their academics, into the toughness that they take and begin applying to other areas of their life. And so when a kid reaches out to me years down the road, 10 years, 15 years later, and longer, telling me about how the training made them tougher and prepared them for life, prepared them for career, prepared them for military, to me, something about it is just like, it really touches my heart. And it's probably because my sport coaches changed my life, and weight training also changed my life. But unfortunately, there were no strength coaches in the private sector when I was a kid. There were college strength coaches, but there were not independent strength coaches like what I'm doing. And so in 2002, when I started training athletes out of my garage, it was something very new. There was maybe 2 guys in New Jersey that were doing the warehouse gym business style of training. And there were literally a few handfuls around the country that were doing it back then. So early 2000s, this was very much in its infancy. How valuable are certifications such as the CSCS, which is a Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, or the NASA, NASM PES to employers in this field? Well, to work at the collegiate level, you must have the NSCA CSCS. That's the gold standard. There's also the CCA, which is the Certified Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association. Those two are the gold standards. At Scotch Plains, all of our coaches have their CSCS, and I believe we all have our master's degrees. So Garrett Timko has his master's degree. Coach DJ, a master's degree. Coach DJ was a graduate assistant at Rutgers while I was the strength coach for the Rutgers wrestling. And Leanne is going for her doctorate in physical therapy, which is really where I think is going to be, I don't know if it's the future, but I think that is really going to be the person that goes above and beyond, where I call this, this is called Turning Pro. From Stephen Pressfield, and even though it's a book more for creators and authors, I gift it to many coaches. But Leanne is getting her doctorate of physical therapy, and I'd say since 2007, 2008, especially 2010, we've seen so many injuries and strange mobility patterns in kids that you need a high level of rehab knowledge, even if you're not a physical therapist. So I think somebody who is a strength coach, I call it a sports performance coach, that's what I call what we do, but also has a physical therapy license, you are the most powerful person. I'm just going to read you the first page of Turning Pro from Stephen Pressfield. And he's written many books. He does a lot of books on military and war. And he wrote another book called The War of Art. I love it. But here's what he writes in the opening page. I wrote in The War of Art that I could divide my life neatly into 2 parts, before turning pro and after. After is better. And he is 100% correct. And not everybody wants to turn pro. Some people want to just be good or good enough. And that's why we have that phrase at the Scotch Plains location, good enough is the death of greatness. Now, sometimes in training, or actually many times in training, it's not perfect, right? And sometimes you have a pretty good workout. Well, that's 100% more than 0. But when you're a coach, when you're in charge of changing lives and impacting lives, and their parents are putting trust in you, good enough is the death of greatness. You need to be great for those that you train. These other certifications, it depends on where you're working. If you're working at a New York Sports Club or a Retro Fitness, you could probably get any kind of certification. In 2008, I created the Underground Strength Coach certification, which we now call the Underground Strength and Sports Performance certification. And back then, it was really a big thing for these guys who saw what I was doing with the garage and warehouse gym. They wanted to learn the system. I think right now, certifications in the college level are crucial, but if you're at the independent level, it's not as important. What's most important at the independent/private sector level is that you have knowledge. And so that's who really comes a lot through my certification, are coaches who want to gain the knowledge because they want to be able to take the systems that we utilize at the Underground Strength Gym and put it into play at their gym anywhere in the world. So colleges are going to want the CSCS or the CSCCA. Both are amazing. What is your favorite sport to train athletes in and why? The wrestlers have most of the time been my favorite because of their work ethic. They're just used to the work. I love really all the sports. I mean, we've had tough athletes in sports that people wouldn't even think we train. Like fencers have been some of our toughest athletes. Swimmers have been some of the strongest, toughest athletes. Soccer players have been great. Baseball has been tremendous. Of course, football, lacrosse. It's not so much the sport. It's really what I see in the kid. Is the kid a worker? That's who I love to work with. Somebody who is coachable. If they're not coachable, I really, struggle working with those kids because you can't help somebody until they want to help themselves. And through that being said, through these experiences, a lot of times what I do is I say to myself, what am I doing wrong that's not making this athlete coachable? How can I get better to help this kid? Now, on the flip side, that doesn't mean I don't put any accountability or responsibility on the athlete. I just use it as another opportunity to find a way for me to get better at communication. What is the most challenging aspect of this job? At the independent level, the most challenging aspect of the job is parents really don't understand the difference between what we do and, let's say, Coach John Smith running the high school weight room. Oh, they're deadlifting also. Oh, they also do the bench press. They think that the exercises equate to the same result. And the way I explain it is, anybody 17 or 18 years old has their driver's license. Well, why aren't we all racing in NASCAR? They drive cars, we drive cars. It's not that we all do the same thing. It's how you do it. And that's why certain football teams are consistently winning the Super Bowl or they're in the Super Bowl finals, while other teams are always 500 or they're always at the bottom. And it's because of who they're coaching, who's coaching, how are they playing the game. And of course, at the pro level and even the college level, it's recruiting, right? They have to get talent. So the most challenging aspect is that we lose kids to sport coaches running mandatory weight room when the sport coach we always tell them, come and see what we do. Better yet, train with us, right? Like go through the training. If you can't train with us, it's hard for you to tell kids what to do if you can't do it yourself. The other tough thing is parents oftentimes are just looking for what's 5 minutes closer to home and what's $50 cheaper. And so we are not low priced or cheap priced. We are premium priced because number one, I have great coaches. Number two, we want to pay those coaches what they're worth. So if we're always trying to kind of cut corners and be the cheapest person around, we tend to attract people who are simply looking for the best deal, not the best product. The other thing that's quite challenging is the politics. The politics at the college level. I was at a college once, and I remember the director was just bringing friends in. He was bringing friends there to show them, hey, man, this could be your job. So was it the best person for the job, or was it the best friend? And so when I think about kids, I think about politics getting eliminated, getting erased, and making very black and white decisions. Number one, what is the best thing for the kids? Number two, do that. If it's not best for the kids, Do not do that. The other difficult thing is there's a lot of competition in the private sector at the independent level. And so sometimes we don't control everything, right? For example, we need to expand the Scotch Plains location. We need more equipment in there. We need some things like Airdyne bikes and rowers so we can better train our adults. We need more space so we could utilize sleds year round and not have to battle with the rain or snow or frozen ground outside. So sometimes you want to make moves, but it costs a lot of money. And when you're at the college level, if you're at a big Division I school, you get donors. For example, when I was at Lehigh, the first time I went there, I was in their original old wrestling room. It was beautiful. It just gave me goosebumps. A year and a half later, they had a $25 million facility built. I don't know, 8 to 10 people donated a few $1,000,000 each. Bang, it's done. Whereas when you're at the independent level like myself, you're really watching every dime. You don't have donors, giving you even $1,000, let alone $1 million. All of that money comes from you. So equipment is not so well. Bad equipment or cheap equipment is cheap. Great equipment that lasts a long time is an investment. It is expensive, and so those things make it challenging. Okay, let's see. Second to last question. What, in your opinion, differentiates somebody who is good at this job and somebody who's great at this job? I'm kind of going to piggyback on what I said earlier. They're going to genuinely care. I'm going to paraphrase what a mentor said to me, Coach Johnny Parker. He was a strength coach from public school level to college to NFL, the Giants and the 49ers. And he said to me, Zach, good coaches coach weights. Great coaches coach people. So it's not about the sets and the reps and the fancy program. I've got all these books from, track and field, the East German track and field method. That's not what it's about. It's about coaching the kids, coaching people. That's what a great coach does. A good coach is only interested in the X's and O's. What advice do you have to anybody who would like to enter this field? Do heavy-duty research. Really think about where would you like to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What does your perfect day look like? Do you pull into the parking lot of a university weight room? Or do you pull into the parking lot of your own gym? Are you ready and willing to do marketing and business? If not, try to get into a public school, a private school, a university/college setting. If you love business and you love the uncertainties and the ups and downs and you think you could handle stress, then the independent sector is for you. Or you might be like me, ready and willing to do it all. I love coaching. I do love business, but I love coaching a million times more. And I'd say after Hurricane Sandy happened here in Manasquan and throughout New Jersey, I became more, I felt I wanted to immerse myself in coaching and get away from all the business stuff. Simply wanted to be a great coach. And that's what I still chase to this day. And so you got to really think about what you'd like to be and then also be okay with being, ready to evolve. They say great strength coaches are like chameleons. They adapt to their environment. Even, hey, I'm training an 8 a.m. group here at the college, but then the 9 a.m. group, the other half of the team, same sport, is different. I need to be a chameleon. I need to adapt and adjust to them. I think going back to what Coach Johnny Parker said, good coaches coach weights, great coaches coach people. Take that with you wherever you go and be willing to research and do the work and improve and be humble and truly love the people that you serve. You can be great. Hope this helped you out, Harrison. You're the man. We love having you at the Underground, undergroundstrengthgym.com. And we've got zachstrength.com. That's my free training newsletter. And undergroundstrengthcoach.com at the Underground Strength Academy. I'm going to pull the audio from this and put it up on the Strong Life podcast, which is up on Apple Podcasts. So hope everybody enjoyed. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you for watching. Boom.